Hello and welcome to Mike's Garage. We need to get back on this motor here. I had to wait quite a while to get the polished aluminum back, but we've got it now. And we've got the cylinders on. Lifter blocks are just sitting there being pretty. But we need to put the cam chest together, referred to by some people as a cam chest. I think that's actually a term that the Indian factory used. But Harley calls it a gear case. Before we put the gear case together, we need to put the oil pump on. So I have here the oil pump all cleaned up, and without talking about it other than that, I think we ought to get into it. Let's do it. Okay, first we have the oil pump body, which has been polished. Just on this side, because that's really all you're going to see. So instead of polishing the whole body, it's just polished on this side that shows. And here are the gears for it. And we're ready to go. Now, this pump has been cleaned completely. Maybe we'll put the parts in it that belong in it before we get too deep into it. New springs, new ball, and new caps for it. So we'll put those on real quick like. There's the O-ring on that cap, the O-ring on that cap, and we're going to need this piston here, and we're going to need this plug. I do hope I brought a wrench out for this plug. I don't think I did. I don't think I did, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to go get one. I brought every tool out I could think of, and I forgot to bring a 1/2-inch wrench out here. With the oil pump gasket set. There was already a ball in there, so I guess I didn't need one. But here's this little plug, and it has a brass washer. You can see that. And that goes right here on the back side of the pump. You want to be sure and put that in before you put the pump on, or you can't get to it. So there it is. And that brass washer will crush, and this thing will seal, and you won't need to bother with it again. Now, putting an oil pump together dry is not a particularly good idea. And I like to put them together with assembly lube. And I have here some assembly lube I've been using for years. Now I call this a piston. You can call it a slide. You can call it anything you like. But we're going to drop it right down the tower there. Okay, on top of that goes a spring. We put a brand new spring in there. On top of that goes the plug. Let's see now. We do have a plug with the appropriate gasket. And that plug goes right into the spring. We're going to put that gasket in, and we're going to put an O-ring on it too. I had a buddy used to say, yes, Mikey, I'm a pants and suspenders kind of guy. Should always put lubrication on an O-ring before you install it. And on it goes. Whoops, it's 7/16. We have a 7/16 here? Yes, we do. I think, because I can, somewhere here I had another. That's all right. We can tighten that up later. Next thing is the ball. It goes in the oil pump. Now what this ball does is it holds the oil back and into your oil tank. So there's that ball, that spring, and the plug that goes on top of it. When you haven't ridden your bike in quite a while, and you get up one morning, and there's oil all over the garage floor, quite often what happened is the oil went past that ball. When the oil goes past that ball, it goes through the breather and right out onto the floor. Let's get this one tightened in here. Now, I'm not going to go get a 7/16 wrench. I'm tired of walking back and forth. I can tighten all this stuff up later. And I don't really like this plate right here. There is a brass one here that will go on here much better. And we will replace that with a brass one after it's on the bike, or on the motor anyway. Okay. That's a little prettier than what the factory put there. And there it is. The next thing we need to do is get this little hardware kit open. And we're going to put a key right here. Can you get that? Now the easiest way to get this done is with the shaft already in. See the gear, you see that gear there? That gear there is what drives the oil pump, and it's driven by this worm gear on the pinion shaft. Since we didn't take it out and we didn't disturb it, we can put it together just like this. That's a real hard snap ring to get on in there, so if you don't take it off, you don't have to put it back on. Got it? Okay, now, there's one more thing I neglected. There's a seal that goes right in here. And I'm going to pull this one out. You can pull it out with a pick or whatever you choose. There it is. We'll put it over there. It's used. We'll take this new one, put a little lube on it. Come on, lube. That's enough. And we're going to put this seal right back into the pump. Now there is a tool made for this. We don't have it. But it's a very easy seal to install. Carefully. We can use a socket very carefully. And when I get it in most of the way, I'll switch to a smaller socket to make sure I don't scar up the inside of the oil pump. And there it is. All right. Let's get these sockets out of the way. Get a real good look at this, make sure it's in all the way. It's in beautifully. Okay, next thing is gaskets. Now, you've ordered the right gaskets, you think, and it's always a good idea to check them against the oil pump. Make sure that all the holes go through where they're supposed to. You don't want to block any holes. Now, I've already checked this one out completely. It's not a bad idea to even match them up to the old gaskets, which I already did. Okay, moving right along. We need to put a gasket on here first. It's going to go right there. So what I like to do, there's all kinds of sealants that people use, most of which I'm afraid of. And the only reason I'm afraid of them is because if you get any sealant blocking any of the holes, you'll have an oiling problem. If you use white lithium grease, not only will it seal, but it won't block the holes. The oil going through there will clean it right out and everything will be fine. So that's the way I like to do it. And I've had a whole lot less difficulties doing it this way. I think it really works well. I don't like that plug I put in the top of the oil pump, but I can change it at any time, and I probably will. I like the plug. I don't like the way the gasket works on it. But be that as it may. So we'll put this gasket in place. And we'll put, let's see, we're going to put the gear on the shaft. This is one of the return gears. And we'll put our finger over here on this shaft so that I don't lose it off of the gear. Here we go. Now this gear slides on just like that. Okay, now that was a trial fit. What we're going to do now is put some assembly lube on it. Assembly lube, there it is. Don't want to run this oil pump dry to start with. Or ever. Again, I put my finger on the shaft on the inside and I can put that gear right on there. Whoops. Knock the key out. I also brought a magnet out with me in case I drop one of those keys. There it is. Okay. Now that we have that done, the other gear goes into the oil pump. Again, assembly lube. Running low on assembly lube. Doesn't take a whole lot. It's just good insurance. Okay, we've got assembly lube there. There. Of course, I got enough rags. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put some white lithium grease onto this pump body. Now the fun part is when you slide it on, you got to get the gears to line up, and you'll have to do that by braille. In other words, you can't see it, but it's the way it is. So we will again let me get that there a little bit. Now I'm going to hold that shaft again. I'm going to get my head in the way, and I apologize. Slide that thing on there real easy like. Gonna have to move that gear just a little bit. I believe I'm fighting the seal. There it goes. There it goes. Nope. And now it's on. Okay, next thing is to put the bolts in. Now when you put these bolts in here, that will line up the pump body with the crankcase. It's a really hard thing to show because you're kind of doing a whole bunch of things at once. You don't want to tighten them yet. Just get them on there good without tightening them. Don't want to go tightening them too much. Okay, next thing is we have to put another key here. That one's a little harder to get in there. But once you get it, you're there. Piece of rag. Okay, there is another way to do this. What we'll do is turn the motor to where I can get at that key a little better. Can you see that keyway in there? It's a little hard to... Feeling really silly here. And there it is. Push that shaft out there again. Make sure that key is in all the way. Don't forget to lube up the gear. With that assembly lube I'm running out of, there we go. Okay, now what I'm going to do is carefully slide that gear right into place and try not to knock the key loose. And it pulled the key right out. Now, I'm really glad that happened. The reason I'm glad it happened is so you can see what happens and how it does that. Something to watch out for. Happens to the best. Most guys put them in with little bitty pliers. I just thought I was going to be smart and do it by hand here. I'm going to loosen these up just a little bit, make sure that pump can slide just a little bit, make it a little easier. There it goes. And it's on. And with that in place, we can put the other gear in place. And once the other gear is in place, we can put the cover back on. Once the cover's on, we're done. It's not a real complicated mess, but you'll notice everything is as clean as I could get it. There is really more than enough assembly lube on there. But we get the gears lined up. And they slide right in. Okay. Gears are now slid in place. The next thing is we need a snap ring right here on that shaft. So where is the snap ring? It's right here. And a pair of snap ring pliers. And we can put it on. Most people don't want to show putting an oil pump together because everybody's all thumbs when they do that. It's one of those things that just, you always want to make sure that snap ring is seated in its groove. Okay. That thing is in there. I mean, I'll even rotate it a little bit to make sure it's home. Now we have the cover. And we're going to look at this cover a little bit. I have new fittings for these. They can be put on later. Actually, I have a couple ordered. The gasket. It's the same as installing the big gasket. This is the cover gasket. And we'll put it on. And once it's on, well, you'll see. Is that a tease? No, it's not a tease. Okay. Well, you got white lithium grease on, probably way more than I need. But there it is in place. And it will hold in place for me. Now I can put grease on this side of the gasket, or I can put it on the cover. Because it's staying so well for me here, I'm just going to put it on the gasket. White lithium grease makes a wonderful, wonderful seal. And again, any of it that gets in the holes won't block anything from going through. By that I mean it won't stop the oil from flowing. Okay. Now that the gasket is on there, we want to put this bolt on. Now notice on the cover, this bolt hole of the 4 that hold this cover on, this one is slotted. So we'll just barely start that bolt. So we can slide the cover on just like that, and it'll be exactly where it needs to be. Once it's on, we can put the other bolts in. I start all these by hand, and then I can just put them right on with no effort. I'm going to turn this a little bit. Is that okay? Now notice when you put this stuff on, let me loosen these up again. You can align the oil pump body onto, or the cover onto the body. Sorry, my microphone wire went away. But I'm back. What I was trying to show is how to align this oil pump body, the cover, onto the body. All right. Now all the bolts are on. What we're going to do now is torque them as per the service manual, which simply said 50 inch-pounds. That's not a lot, but you don't want to warp that body. So I'm going to sneak up on that 50 inch-pounds. Oops, we're already there. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And there we have it. One installed oil pump. Now we still need to add the fittings. I don't like this cap. And we're going to put the oil sending unit goes right there. But that's how you install an oil pump. And it's all polished on the side and pretty. And in our next video, I think we'll install the camshaft. So one thing I keep forgetting to say is please subscribe. If you like what you're seeing and hearing, please subscribe. Until then, see you out on the road.